So how do you find the right order for the scenes and summaries of your piece? Start by labeling each paragraph. Give each paragraph a concise, zippy tabloid headline, which reveals the essence of the idea in that paragraph. Let me show you by doing. Closely look at Malcolm Gladwell's profile of Victor Gruen, a modern architect who became the leading developer of shopping malls in the United States. Gruen had a split personality in his career. On the one hand, Gruen cared about making cities vibrant and alive with a mix of uses like the great old cities of Europe. On the other hand, he developed malls all over the US, and those malls sucked the life out of American cities and towns. Gruen's story is, in a sense, an American tragedy. The piece starts with background on Victor Gruen. Then his landmark project, the Southdale Mall. Then what happened with that mall, and how another developer, Al Taubman, expanded Gruen's model, and Taubman's maniacal attention to detail. Each paragraph states and develops a single idea, which we can capture with these simple labels. Now that you know what you have to work with, you can start to move them around to figure out which order works best. Think of these labels as refrigerator magnets. You look them over and move them around, looking for just the right arrangement to tell the story. Let's see how you might do that. Quite simply, you start to move the ideas around. Create clusters, and then you start to think about what kind of journey you might want to take in this piece. Keep thinking of Aristotle's narrative arc, beginning, middle, and end. Think of it as a game. Have fun with it. Don't rush. Easy does it. If you know where you want to begin a journey and where you want to end a journey, figuring out the right path, what comes in the middle, becomes relatively straightforward. Gladwell knew sometime early in the writing process how he wanted to end his story. He wanted to say that Victor Gruen created a Frankenstein. His original vision as an architect was to revive old-style European cities, but he created malls that sucked the life out of cities and towns. So that's Gladwell's destination. That's his end point. And those are 4 paragraphs that help him achieve that. Once you know the destination, you can figure out where to start, how to introduce the subject of the article. In this case, Victor Gruen, malls, and the life and death of cities. So he's got 4 paragraphs that set out the beginning of the journey. If you know how to begin a journey and where to end it, then figuring out the middle becomes pretty straightforward. With the beginning and end mapped out, writing gets easy, or at least easier. Sure, it takes work, but you'll be able to figure out what goes where when you have all the pieces in front of you. After establishing the opening and closing paragraphs, you start chunking the other paragraphs into sections. This is a playful process. Remember, you're standing at the refrigerator, moving magnets around, figuring out which pieces relate to the others. No need to rush at all. Here's how Malcolm Gladwell organized the paragraphs in that story about Victor Gruen for The New Yorker. Notice how you get a sense of the whole piece at a glance. That's the genius of using tabloid headlines for each paragraph. Could Gladwell have done this differently? Of course. But he creates a whole piece, a kind of journey from ambition to tragedy, with lots of pieces in between that show the trade-offs, the coercion, the resistance, the greed, the hubris, and more. Suppose Gladwell had started his piece with the tragic outcome. That would have set up a mystery. How did this happen? That could work. In fact, several approaches could work. It depends on what kind of journey you want to give your reader. Robert Caro plasters his wall with pieces of paper. Each describes a key scene and idea for the book. Then he stands back and moves the pieces around until he finds just the right order. Now it's your turn. Take the paragraphs from a magazine article, cut them up, and put them out of order. Read them and figure out what the author is trying to convey. Then arrange them in an order that makes sense.